At about 8 p.m. last night, I was walking with a friend of mine, Sally, about a mile to the closest cafe. We're both girls in our early 20s, neither of us own cars, and Sally didn't have her LPAL card, which is this Aussie version of an Oyster card. Basically, an automatic ticketing system for public transport. So walking was our only option. It's summer over here, so it was still fairly well lit, and we were walking down the main roads, so we weren't too concerned. We finally arrived at this cafe and sit down. I was paying, but I only had my credit card, and sure enough, it was cash only. Sally was on the phone when I got back from the counter, so I just gestured for her to stay put and guard the spot while I get cash out. This is my home suburb, so I know there's no ATMs around, and my best bet is a gas station about a block away. I'm doing a light jog so I don't keep Sally waiting, when a balding, sweating guy probably in his late 40s with a white tank top and no shoes comes pacing behind me as I pass the corner of the block. He walks from behind me for about 100 meters. I didn't really think much of it. The gas station was next to the building along. It seemed like he had just come out of a nice suburban house along the street, and it wasn't the witching hour, so I just assumed he was going to the gas station like me. He didn't even cross my mind as I entered the tiny convenience store, nor did he follow me in. In my peripheral, I saw him walk past the door and out of sight. I looked around for an ATM they sometimes have inside, and no such luck. So I go up to this man in his 30s at the desk and ask him reluctantly if they would be able to do cash out. He smiles and says, of course, and then asks, is he with you? I have no idea who he's talking about at first, and then he points to the man from earlier, pacing around outside the store. Keep in mind, he didn't look menacing at all. He wasn't going back and forth just outside the door, he was drifting in the space outside, from the pavement to the gas pumps to the storefront seemingly aimlessly. I assumed he was on drugs. I tell the clerk, no, not thinking much of it at all. He says, oh, he was staring at you before. I thought he might have been your dad. I laugh it off. I honestly wasn't concerned at all. He was still ambling around outside, and I couldn't imagine him having a fixed gaze on anything. I thank the clerk for the cash, but before I turn away to leave, he says, just wait and see if he leaves first. We wait for a few minutes in silence, and the guy begins to pace back and forth directly against the front wall of the store, looking straight ahead and never into the store. It still looked like the man was on some kind of drug-induced amble and seemed harmless. Not once did I catch his gaze, so I figured it would be safe to just slip out the door and walk back to the cafe in fairly bright light of dusk, especially since Sally was texting me at this point asking, where are you? I thanked the guy at the desk once again for his concern, assuring him I don't know the guy and I'm not involved in some weird scheme to rob the store and head for the door. The clerk asks if I want him to walk out with me. I say that I should be alright and begin walking away from the block. As I leave the store, the drifting man stops pacing and makes a beeline for me from the other end of the building. I seriously didn't think much of this guy at all up until this point, but for the first time, he was briskly walking in a straight line towards me. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up and I start power walking so that he doesn't think I'm actively trying to escape him, still trying to convince myself that I'm just being paranoid and should be more casual. I don't look behind me to see how close he is. I've reached the pavement on the other side of the gas pumps when I hear the clerk outside, and he's yelling at me, go! Run! Run! I make a break for it. Looking over my shoulder, he's grabbed the man by his shoulders from behind. The balding man isn't even glancing behind me or trying to escape. He's just watching me run away. And that's pretty much the end of the story. I keep running until I cross the road and then turn around, standing still. The clerk is still holding on to the odd, staring man. The clerk and I are just looking at each other in bewilderment, not really knowing what to do. He makes a hand gesture to go, and I gesture my thanks. You know, the clasp your hands together and shake them a bunch of times. I got back to Sally with the cash and bought food before walking home a different way. Overall, odd guy at the gas station? Let's not meet. Nice gas station attendant who went all out of his way to help my naive self? I'm definitely glad we met.